Alright, y'all, I'm headed to the woods now. This is just a talking video. But I want to talk about trucks. And as y'all know, this one here is the first truck that I bought on my own. It's a 2001 Peterbilt 387. Uh, I like the truck. It's got that ultra shift where it's automatic over manual transmission. I still got a clutch. I can still change the gears manually with the push button, or you can just, put it in drive and go. But anyway, so this is the first one owning on my own. Like I say, I like it. The transmission, I'm iffy on. When it works, it's fine. I like it. It's nice just putting gear and going up the road. But I have had, recurring problems with it. Sometimes, especially when it's cold and you first start up the road, I guess the transmission oil ain't, heated enough. It will, usually when it goes to gear down, it'll get, stuck out of gear or whatever, trying to gear down. And it'll be showing the number of the gear, but you let it on the clutch and it's not going anywhere. It's just free spinning. So you have to just, put it in neutral, cut a truck off, and you can hear the air leaking down there at the bottom. I've, did everything. I've got under there and tapped on it. I've got under there with a little torch and, warmed it up thinking it might be froze. And neither one seemed to really help. You just have to wait for a few minutes and it'll quit leaking air and you'll hear it go and back in gear or whatever. And then you can crank it up and go on up the road. And the other side of that, I've had it stick in gear, usually second gear, which is the normal takeoff gear for this truck. It'll get stuck in that gear. It will not go back to neutral. It will not go to reverse. It will not shift up or down manually or automatically. Same thing. Just have to cut the truck off, and it's still in gear. It'll be beeping and, carrying on for a while, but, after a few minutes, it'll put itself back in neutral. Then you can crank it up and go on up the road about your business. Usually, either way, whether it sticks in gear or out, after it, sets itself back the first time, usually I don't have any more problem with it the rest of the day. And like I said, it's usually first thing in the morning, within the first 5 miles, it'll do that. But other than that, I like the truck. It's got a C12 cat. I don't know what it's set to, but it's got plenty of power for me. I don't care about, being the first one there running 100 mile an hour down the road. The heaviest I pulled with it, and, of course we didn't mean to, but sometimes they get overloaded. It was 101,000, and I couldn't tell any difference between that and, say 90, 92,000. In our area, they upped the limit. You gotta pay for it. It's like $500 a year, but you can legally, haul 90,000 pounds gross. So anyway, going back, I've always worked for my dad and drove for him. The first truck I drove, I believe, was a 2003 Mack Vision. It had the 460 Mack in it. I liked that truck. It just wasn't heavy duty enough in the suspension wise for pulling wood. It had a real light duty suspension, but it drove pretty good. One thing I don't like about the Macks is they've got a lot of give in their cab airbags. When you go up the road, even empty in a curve, the cab does a lot of that, twisting and bouncing up and down, and I don't particularly like that. I like it solid. Same way with the seat. I don't like the rocking chair and, all that stuff. And luckily this truck, the seat is the right height. I can, pump it with the maximum air where it doesn't bounce up and down, and it's not too high up where my knees are hitting the steering wheel and stuff. So I like that. Uh, my dad's Kenworth, I can't run the seat all the way up because you're up in the roof. But I do run air in the seat. I'm not one of those Peterbilt drivers that's, peeping over the steering wheel. But that was a good truck. He bought that truck right when I got my license and drove it for a long time. We had to do some motor work to it. We had to put liners in it. And we had a mechanic buddy to help us do that. But, that 460 Mac motor was really easy to work on. And we did that, got it back running and running for a long time with, very little trouble. It was a really good running motor. It didn't burn a lot of fuel. It didn't have a lot of power, but it didn't burn a lot of fuel. And it would crank. It didn't matter how cold it was, and you didn't have to plug it in. And my dad was driving a 96 Freightliner at the time, and I drove it for a while too. It was a 96 Freightliner FDL 120 with an N14 Cummins in it. And I like that truck. It's a good running truck. Freightliner's got one of the best driving and riding trucks out there. It would, set up in the road. It wasn't, rocking with the load going up the road. And it was a good truck. We never did a whole lot of that either. We've been pretty lucky on the truck parts. Now, they've had older trucks. He had an older Kenworth. I don't remember what the model was, and a couple of them old Internationals, but that was before my time, so I can't really speak on them. And after that, I got a 99 379 Peterbilt, and that was a nice truck. It had a 34 6E cat in it, 18-speed transmission, and it was ready to go. It was a triple-digit truck. And, you could run whatever speed you want to, uphill, downhill, and didn't have to shift unless you wanted to. That was a really power-horse truck. It didn't ride real good, and it didn't drive real good. I think, it's nowhere near as smooth as this one, but I think that's just because it's just had a lot of worn parts that didn't get replaced or whatever. I don't think, as popular as the 379 is, I don't think all of them would have rode and drove as bad as that one did. But she had the power. And I guess that long wheelbase and everything too, it went pretty darn good in the woods and the mud and stuff. I could lock them differentials in, and sometimes you got to put her up in, the high side and take off in the mud, empty. You couldn't do it loaded, but most time I could go bird anywhere I wanted to go in that truck without getting pushed or pulled. This truck goes pretty good in the mud, but if it's, a situation where you got a spinner, it doesn't really do so swell because having that automatic transmission, you can't crank her up in, the high side and, dump the clutch and let it eat like those manual trucks. But after that, we got a Freightliner, Century, I think it is. And that's a really good driving truck, really good riding truck too. Hadn't had to do a whole lot to it either. He did have to put some injectors in it and stuff like that. But it's got a 60 Series Detroit. And I think it needs some work done to it. I think it needs maybe to adjust the rack, and he put used injectors in it, maybe some new ones, but it ain't got hardly no power at all. About 45 loaded or empty is all she gonna do. And I know a lot of people had Detroits that would run pretty good, and like I said, I think it just needs some work done to it. But mainly now, it's been through a lot of stuff, and it's really ragged, so most of the time now we just use it for a switch truck, so kind of gets put on the back burner. And my dad's main truck now that he drives is I think it's a 2000 Kenworth T2000. It's pretty much just like this truck, the 387, just a Kenworth version. They look about the same. The wheelbase is about the same, and it rides really good. It sits in the road really good. It don't shift and rock like that. I like that Kenworth suspension. It's got the small airbags on it, but it doesn't drive that great. It doesn't drive quite as good as this one, and it doesn't drive anywhere near as good as that Freightliner. But it still, drives pretty good. It's got a C15 cat in it, and it's like that 3406. I don't know what it's turned to, but it's got plenty of power. It's just got a 10-speed transmission, everything we've had except for that 379. And this one with the auto, which is still a 10-speed, has been 10 speeds. My dad's real partial to them 10 speeds. I like a 13 or 18. I drove a 13 a little while. We had a guy that was, lease truck driving for us back around time I was getting my license, and I rode with him for a while when I had my learners, and drove his truck. And the Mac that we bought, he had it. I don't know what model it was, but it was a Mac Vision with a 13. And the Mac Vision that we bought was one of his trucks that we bought from him, but it had a 10-speed in it. But them Macs was pretty good old trucks. I wish we could have got the one with the 13-speed because it did have a little more power, and it did have a different, more heavy-duty suspension up under it. But anyway, I really like this truck, the 387, but I kind of wish I had a 379 or 389 because you just can't beat the way them things look. And I've also been real partial to a Kenworth W900. I had one when I was a kid, playing trucks and cars, and it was big sleeper with the like Camaro T-top windows up in the top of it. And I just always liked the way them things look. And I know that Kenworth's a tough truck. We've had a couple of them. Like I said, one of them my dad had when I was a kid. But that truck, it had an old 400, I think, big cam Cummins in it. And you just couldn't kill that truck. That thing run and run and run and run and run. And the motor outlived the truck. The truck just got so ragged. It was turned over one time, not really hard, just laid over real easy in a ditch. The guy driving it, another truck run him out the road on one of these old narrow back roads, And they brought it home and had a guy, fix it back up, do a body work on it, put the windshields back in it, and run her again. But that was a tough old motor, and he didn't hardly do anything to it but put fuel in it. I think he did have to put a water pump on it one time. And that one had an old style suspension. It held up good, but it would break coming out of the woods, twisting and stuff. It had a big plate on it on the side of the suspension back there that I don't know what you call it, but they called it a whale tail. But he broke that a couple times, and he ended up having a welding guy, I forgot what they did, but they did some stuff to it and kind of beefed the suspension up and never did have no more trouble out of it. But anyway, that's just some trucks we done had and I've had experience with. And, if y'all out there drive trucks and everything, let me know down in the comments, maybe what you're driving now or what your favorite truck was and what you haul and stuff like that. Like I said, we've always hauled wood mainly, and that's what I've got experience with is log trucks. But anyway, y'all let me know down in the comments, and it's all for this one.